So this is a short recording of how to remove rust spots from your exhaust. If you've got a stainless steel exhaust, you may have discovered, as I did, that stainless steel is not exactly stainless. As you get moisture that stays on the exhaust pipes or crap that comes off the road and sticks to the pipe, you can get various kinds of corrosion. And what I noticed on my bike when I was looking at it is I was getting these tiny little brown rust spots that I'm not sure you're going to be able to see, but I'm pointing at some here and there. And they messed with the aesthetics of the bike. I've got these really nice gold Yoshimura pipes, and I looked at it and thought, oh crap, this looks nasty. What do I do here? The first thing I tried was use a little barkeeper's friend to just buff it out, and it really didn't work as well as I'd hoped it would. It took too long to remove some of the corrosion, and frankly, it didn't do a great job of it. So, did a little searching on the internet, and what I discovered was that you can basically, the best route for this is to just sand them off using a low grit sandpaper, and then work your way up through various grits until you get a nice mirror shine on it again. And that is the best way to do this. You're going to remove some of the gold coating, but that's fine. And so here I've got some micro mesh, which is a particular variety of sandpaper that is basically different grits of sandpaper on a cloth back, so they wrap around things fairly nicely, which is going to be useful for this project because the pipes are rounded. So my strategy for this is going to be to start with the lowest grit micro mesh that I have, which is listed as 1500, which is probably closer to 600 grit sandpaper that you'd get on a sheet at your automotive or hardware store, whatever. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start with that. Then I'm going to work my way up through the grit ranges and go from 1500 probably to 2400, then finish with 4000, and then call it good. And so what you're going to see me do is just start with the 1500 grit sandpaper and basically just rub away at the areas where there's these corrosion spots, these little brown to purple spots, until it's completely gone. And you want to make sure that you really press down firmly and hard enough and do enough buffing here, sanding, that you get rid of that spot completely, because if you don't, it's just going to show up again as soon as you start running the bike. It'll be a little bit fainter, but it'll still be noticeable. So I'm going to work away at this for a while and then switch to the 2400 grit and the 4000 grit, and that's going to be it. And all told, I think it took me about, 10 minutes to do this job for the small amounts of corrosion I have. So if you've noticed on your bike that this has happened, it's a pretty easy fix. It's a pretty short job to do. Alright, I'm nearing the end, of the sanding with the 1500 grit sandpaper, and now I'm going to switch to the 2400 grit. And the reason I'm doing this, for anybody who doesn't know, is that the 1500 grit is going to leave some kind of noticeable scratches on the pipes, and the 2400 is going to make those scratches less noticeable, and by the time I get done with the 4000, you won't be able to tell at all. It'll look like a true mirror finish on these pipes. And after I'm finished polishing up with the 2400 grit, I switch to my final grit, which is the 4000. Do a little light buffing overall to bring it back to a mirror shine. And as you can see in the final here, the areas that I sanded do look more steel colored. That color will turn back to gold as you run the bike. It doesn't have any lasting effect on that gold color. It'll just be steel looking for a little bit, and then as you run it, it'll go back to gold. And finally, I'm just finishing up the polishing job. You can use a higher grit sandpaper if you want to have an even more mirror-like polish, but I stopped at 4000 because it looked like the stock pipes to me at that point. And as you get more corrosion on the pipes over time, it's the same thing. Just go back with that sandpaper, buff them out, and it'll be good as new.